and welcome to Wikipedia Weekly Network here, where Albin Larsson and I, Jan Ainali, are editing Wikidata live. Hello, Albin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm feel quite overwhelmed over the fact that we have reached 100 episodes. How are you doing, Jan?
Yes, 100 episodes. I'm also quite astonished that we managed to do it, even though we had like a 2 weeks pause right now before this because different things happens in life when we were out traveling. But yeah, I'm doing great.
Right. When you reached out to me originally back like over 2 years ago to do this, did you think we would reach 100 episodes?
I did not, because when we started, this was sort of like something to do while there was a pandemic, and I had no clue it was coming so long, and that we're actually gonna keep up with this.
Yeah, but
It
here we
seems also
are.
like yes, seems also like I have slight Wi-Fi issues here in my home where I am right now. So we'll see how stable it's gonna be. You'll have to take over if I lose connection.
Yeah,
And
great.
today, as a special episode, what were we planning to do?
We want to highlight all the various tools that we have been using over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, because they are like the core of what we do. We do this to highlight various tools, workflows, and the amazing work that Orchard people put into not only Wikidata but the entire ecosystem around the Wikimedia platforms. So we want to go back to a list of episodes and just say a couple of words of I think we've reached over 100 tools and user scripts and highlight those.
Yes, and I was gonna bring up the short. I think this is the URL. Oh, I double clicked it.
Yes, it is.
This is the URL for our list, and the list looks like this when you get to it. So it is a page on Meta, Wikipedia Weekly Network / live Wikidata editing. And there's a table with like the main topics of each show, a link to it, and some almost everyone has a little bit of a longer description. And you've been maintaining this mostly, Albin. How have you sort of like constructed this?
Um, it depends, and I have had a lot of help from Orchard people who every now and then go into this list and do things as well. But in general, I try to capture the tool and the general theme of a episode and add that as a topic. And then I try to be consistent so we can do some type of statistics of what tools we're using and such. But in general, it's a very terrifying experience as I often end up watching myself and you talking, and we all know how that feels.
Yes, and it's not really a happy birthday, but thank you. We'll take it as such. It's some sort of like jubilee at least.
Indeed.
Yeah, and we were also thinking a little about like how are we going to go deep are we going to go into these tools and stuff, and which things are tools and other things. And as you can see here, first we have the WDQS, which is the Wikidata Query Service. And like, is this a tool or not? But I guess it is. It's not native on Wikidata, even though it's from uh, the Wikidata team and maintained by the Wikidata team. It's sort of like separate. And I think it's like such an important tool for what we have been doing that we would be we would be ashamed if we missed at least showing it a little bit.
Yeah, indeed. And it would be interesting. I haven't counted, and I would again be terrified to sit through and watch all of them. But I'm not sure how many episodes we have managed where we haven't shown any Spark query. I think it might be one or maybe two, but that's it. Otherwise, I think we have always been in BDQS at least once.
Yes, yes. And here you see it, and as you also see from my very zoomed in thing, It's also one of these tools that are available like translatable, so you can get it on your own language. Here you see it, I get it in Swedish, and when you're zoomed in like this, you have an extra menu bar. Usually, if you're on a bigger screen, you'll see these immediately. And we have something that we come back to. It's almost like a tool in itself, the example queries, which are such a great resource for anyone who wants to get into querying Wikidata, that like we could do episodes just going through through the examples.
Indeed.
And yes, and these are also translated, so this is very neat. Now we see
Oh, I didn't know that. I learn
yeah,
new stuff
so
every day about
yes,
Wikidata.
the cats. Oh, I even get the comments here in Swedish now. That's pretty cool. I did not know this. This is,
No.
yes, I also learn. So just an example query gives you the basic for queries, things that are a cat, and you get all the cats. I think that's tool number one down.
Yeah.
And do we want to get into the maps and the graphs as well here, or
No,
should we?
I think we can mention those briefly here. There will be more tools related to maps later on,
Yes.
and graphs as well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one would be Cradle.
All right. And I think I have prepared a little banner for that one as well. Let's see if
Okay,
I
then
can
I'm gonna
find it
bring
in
the
our.
tool up in the meanwhile.
Yes. You bring up the tool and talk about it, and I'll show the
Yeah.
thing.
So Cradle is this great tool. I think Jan early on here showed the tool rather than myself, but it takes shaped expressions on Wikidata and turns that into a form. Let's hope I speak about the right tool right now. So if we select here a couple of forms that exists, um, I haven't checked this one before, but let's take the building, for example. And it says loading. Yeah. And then based on this shaped expression, which essentially says this is the properties that should be here, or that could be here, or maybe that shouldn't be here, it makes a form that allows you to fill all of this in and then at the end create an item. And this is great when you don't want to start out from just a really basic one on Wikidata, or when you just want to have quick access to all the properties, or when you want to introduce it to someone who isn't that into Wikidata. They can just fill this as a form, as long as you check that there isn't already something similar in Wikidata. So it's a great tool. I think this one is by Magnus Manske. And yeah, there are more
Yes,
tools
it
from
is.
him later on. Yeah.
It will be. And I think the next tool we have in our list is also shaped expressions themselves, which is perhaps not really, I think, a tool, but it's a namespace on Wikidata where we can store uh, a way to model something, which could be it's very generic and uh, uh, usable in various different ways, but most often you can think of it similar to like how would we store this form on Wiki. Uh, that's a useful way to think about it, but it's actually more complex, and you can do a lot more things with it. You can control for some things, and I think you can even build some logic into it, can't you?
Yeah, some basic validation logic, so to say. If or and
Yeah.
such.
And then we'll come to, oh, I'm not sure if you're going to show this, the JSON to tables, but it's really a way that we can get, uh, and it's a template in a Lua module, which I think it's both on English and Swedish Wikipedia, where you can get data from data namespace on Commons into Wikipedia. So not really a Wikidata tool, but data related, and that's why we have shown it here.
Yeah. Then we got PET scan, I believe.
Yes, that's a Swiss Army knife in itself.
Yeah. Let's see if I have it on my. No, I do not. Do you have it easily accessible?
It's just petscan.toolforge.org, so that's one
Ah,
easy to
perfect.
remember. Uh, I have had it here, but I don't find it in our. Or is it not? Petscan.wmflabs.org.
Ah, of course.
Uh, these are one of the changes we have had. So yes.
There we go. So,
And
would you like to
and
tell us about?
yes, this is a little bit of as I said, Swiss Army knife. It can do a lot of different things. It can just look for things in categories in various projects. Things like, does it have a certain template or does it not have a certain template? Or I want everything in a category, but not this template. So it's like a generic tool that you can use for a lot of like non-Wikidata stuff. But then it also can take and combine these with Sparkle queries. And you can also get things like, oh, I want the Wikidata IDs for all of these Wikipedia stuff and put it into another tool where so you can get this. I think it's PetScan ID, PSID, which is
Yeah,
an ID for things in the Magnus Manske toolbox. Sort of a lot of his tools can take that as an starting point or as an ending point and feed it into another tool. So
yeah.
it's really like,
It's
yeah,
often used for like collection of pages or collection of items, and then you can give that collection a pet scan ID,
yeah.
and that's
And this
incredibly
tool
useful.
is this tool is so can do so many things that we can't really give it justice in this. Someone could just have a similar channel like we do and just do pet scan live things and what you can do with it, because you can also do things more on the other wikis because it takes that as more input as well.
Great. And we just keep going with the Manske tools here. I see Listeria is next up.
Ah, yes. Listeria, sometimes known as Wikidata lists, which we can create like a list on a Wikidata or like on a page on a wiki that has the Wikidata list template, and you can use usually you use a Wikidata query in it as the thing, and then it makes the result on the page, so you can keep it as like on your watch list, or you can even put it in your like some wikis put it in their main namespace and use
Yeah.
this like to render things from Wikidata. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. I think
Pretty
it
cool.
powers list articles on some Wikipedia and all kinds of things. Also, I think this also counts as a Swiss Army knife sometimes because you can
Hmm.
do so much things with it. You can have list articles used for regular readers, but you can also set up for watch list, like you mentioned, and just configure it for your need.
Yes. So useful. Then I think our next tool here, which we haven't talked about, is it quick statements now? Is it time for quick
I
statements?
think it's time for quick statements. This is one of our favorite tools according to this list, and I believe that's very true because it's just amazing. I personally use it all the time, both here, but also when I just do Wikidata work. It's such a great tool.
Yes. And do you have it handy?
Yeah,
Yes.
here it comes.
And
And
basically what this does is it allows you more or less from uh, to create an input to do edits on Wikidata. And very often you can just like create items and add statements to it. And it's sort of good in the way that you can prepare your work before you actually go do the edits, and you can prepare it usually a lot of people, and we have done on this show a lot, like preparing it in a spreadsheet, which gives you plenty of time to work with your data and polish it and make it like nice and tidy, and then you go into the quick statements and upload it.
Yeah, and one of my favorite workflows with quick statements that I've shown here so many times is that I do it directly in SparkQL so that I get an output from the SparkQL, which can be the input for quick statements. And from there, I do edits with just the VDQS and quick statements. And that for me is such a great workflow. I can do that
Yeah.
polish that Jan spoke about directly in the editor and then just import it from here. It's just such a
Hmm.
powerful tool. And yeah, and it's important for so many people. Um, it deserves to be the tool of the year every year, according to me. It's such a great import tool.
Ah, yes, yes. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, I'm looking down further on the list. What else? We have a lot of themes and things we're going through there. Uh, and might it be Wiki Shoot Me, the next one?
Yeah, we got some specific things in between that we did, like timelines with VDQS and such. But then there is Wikishoot Me indeed.
Let me see. I think I have it here. So I can up on. Ah, you also have it there. And what this does is that it, or is it? No, that's my screen. Yes. Does it not load?
Yeah, here it comes.
Ah, there. Here it comes. Just slow. So what it shows is things on Wikidata with a coordinate, and then it gives you a color if it already has an image or not. And it has a few other tricks up its sleeve as well. Like it also shows images on commons, which has a coordinate. Those are the blue dots. And sometimes you see a yellow dot. That's a Wikipedia article with a coordinate. And hopefully that also overlaps with the Wikidata item. It should often be the case. But sometimes this is even a tool just to spot like mismatches from Wikidata and Wikipedia. And
Yeah.
I think it's after we did the first episode with this, it has also been added, like you can also feed into it as a filter. I want just these things from a Sparkle query. I don't think we have shown this in this channel
Oh,
yet, but that's a new possibility. It has. So sometimes you're in an area like in Central Amsterdam and it's too much stuff, and I just want a certain subset of those, and you can actually put that in now. That might be a future episode, but this
yeah,
is
indeed.
also like a really good thing.
I'm just learning new stuff all the time here. No, but for me, this is an essential tool actually when I talk like new Wikimedians, because one of my beliefs are that a good way to just get started is to upload images to Wikipedia articles or Wikidata items that are missing an image. Like here in Sweden, if someone just wants to get started, it's really easy to just go out and photograph a lake because we all got all the lakes in Wikidata, but very few of them got pictures. But it's just such a good tool for, hey, you want something to photograph and an easy upload button, go to Wikishoot Me. There will be a lot of dots on a map. You can walk up to them, read what it is, click a picture, and you are already contributing. So such a great
Exactly.
tool.
And one of the neat side effects, so sort of like perhaps a main feature, I don't know. But when you do the upload from here and it has a connection to Wikidata, it also adds it to the Wikidata item, because that's sort of like you already told this is the same thing.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I'll switch over to the list here, and we're at Wikishoot.me. Oh, and then we also have the Kepler GL. Uh,
Right.
that perhaps you can show.
I think so. Let's see if I can actually show the tool itself. Um, do they have an example file? Let's see if I don't have a query. No, it must be coordinates. I'm not gonna figure out which I have a coordinating. We're gonna have it like this. This got really popular. The first episode we did with Kepler.gl, I believe. I thought this was for this 30-day maps in November event, and it allows you to do all kinds of things like timelines, filters, and such. And the great thing with it is that you can just upload CSV to it, which means that we can take output from VDQS and bring into this tool, and we can get like advanced filters of various kinds. And we can even take two queries and take two CSV files and combine them here. And compared to the VDQS map, we can do things like aggregates here and 3D maps and timelines combined with like graph visualization. And oh, you can do all kinds of things here. And yeah, I think that still to this date, it's one of the most popular episodes we had.
That's quite awesome. Uh, so moving on, I think I see the next one is also we've jumped over Lexemes because that's also just a namespace. I think we're gonna end up on some tools related to that, but then I see also, well, a tool that is sort of related to that, Lingua Libre, and you'll find it on lingualibre.org, and I think I can just switch tab here. Oh, now it
Ah,
says you have to log in to actually use it. Yes, I do want to leave this page to go to the main page. Uh, and this is like a easy way to record words. That's sort of like what you can do. And the way we have shown it here is mostly to record forms of lexemes, sometimes based on a query. So you can say, I want to query something, and then you do. And And I'm happy to say that right now, when you do this, there's also a functioning bot. So when you do the recording here, it will be uploaded to Wikimedia Commons, and then a Commons will go and add that to the lexemes if you based the recording on a query of lexemes, because then it knows where they should go, which makes like it for a very efficient workflow, because you don't need to do the boring edits yourself. You can do the fun stuff like creating new lexemes, and then you read them, and then magically in the background, everything happens.
yeah. To me, I'm not a big user of it. I don't like sharing my voice, I say here. Um, but to me, this is just such a great example of a really high quality tool with a workflow that does one thing but is really optimized for it, and that usually just works. It seems polished for its use case, and yeah, just a really good example. If you want to like show a tool that does its thing and does it very well, then this is a very good candidate.
Yes. All right. Moving on. Uh, Maps, maintenance queries, more graphs, Cradle again. We're coming back to that. Shaped expressions again, coming back to that. More quick statements. Do you want to say anything about federated Sparkle?
Yeah, I think we can quickly mention that. So federated SparkL is when you just use one SparkL service like Wikidata's, but you make it talk to another SparkL service like the Nobel Prize Foundation, which has a different name, has a SparkL endpoint with all the Nobel Prize winners and such. And we can actually make those two endpoints talk to each other. And it just shows how it's incredibly powerful to use SparkQL not only within with Wikidata, but in general over the internet. And I wish that was something that we had much more of.
Mm, yes. All right. And then what do we see? More like seems. We didn't mention structured data commons, but that's not like it's not a tool in itself. It's rather like the goal for many tools, or for some tools that we've shown, or just manual editing. It's sort of like the structured data on commons is the way they use Wikibase to annotate files even more, very similar to Wikidata because it's Wikibase. So, and it's
Yeah.
also, you can say you use properties and items that are on Wikidata.
And here in this episode, actually, we also show the Lexeme Forms tool. Do you want to say something about that one, Jan?
Yes. So I don't. Maybe I can have it handy. Let's see. Forms tool. Yes, I can. So let me quickly put it on the screen. So remove lingua libre. And what it is that you can define on Wikidata, sort of like very similar to how Cradle works, like a form that this is how we should create different kinds of words. And for example, here we can see a Swedish noun, one of the forms, and then you get an example sentence and the different kind of forms it can have. So you can just easily fill it in. You don't even need to know grammar here if you know the language, because you can just complete the sentence. And if you know that's natural, it's going to be all right. And then you'll just create the Elixir with all the forms that goes into this. And so of course, it's a little bit of work on Wiki. You can have to sort of define this, and some grammatical knowledge is good for that. But once you have done it, you have actually created a tool for anyone that knows your language who can help contribute like themes. So investing that time, that's really awesome, because it makes everyone much quicker in creating new leximes.
Yeah. Yeah, the key thing with this one to me is just like you say, everyone can use this because to me, this gives me flashbacks to school. The forms you had to fill in for a grammar test or something like that looked just the same. So everyone who just went to school can usually recognize this type of interface for entering this type of information. So it's so accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah, and as you can see here, I'm scrolling by. Many languages are already added, so chances are that you can already like use these and help out. And otherwise, if you don't see your language here, or missing some of the uh, different kinds of words that are in the language with the grammatical features, you should really look into helping create more forms here. All right, and switching back to the list here then. So that was this episode. And like seems we had the
Then we
statement counts here. Or did you have any before that?
let's see if we are in the same place.
I'm on
Yeah,
episode 38.
I'm not that far yet.
All right,
I
you go first.
I see we mentioned Wikidata statistics as something general, but also the
Mm-hmm.
Grafana dashboards. And the
Mm.
Grafana dashboards are quite interesting. I don't think we're gonna show it here, but they are quite interesting because we can actually see like what's going on with the Wikidata servers and get insights in this. And this is great when you need to like, was it me or was it something actually broken at that time? Was there some lag on the server and things like that, which is incredibly useful. And also just seeing the amazing edit statistics and everything that's going on at the same time it's quite humbling.
Indeed. And I just switched to your screen quickly so I could do some login uh, on another screen here. Meanwhile, uh, because the next tool is a user script, so you have to be logged in to use it. And now I am logged in, so we could switch back. So let's go with here. I'm on English Wikipedia now. I get totally confused because it's the new interface. Let's see if I can get to any category, because that's it, where you're going to see this. So I'll go to the first big uh, there, and then I click on American women farmers, which is just a random category. But what this tool does now, if it loads, I hope it loads. Did I pick a super huge category? Oh, no, here we go. It's, have I just disabled this? No, there it comes.
No,
It
here it comes.
took a while. Here it comes. So it gives you after each uh, article in this category how many statements it has on Wikidata. And if it has really few, it actually highlights them with another color. So you know that, oh, here are some that could need some love. So you can go in and say, oh, this one only has 4 statements. Perhaps I could add a few. And when it's really low, chances are that you can add something, because if you're in the biographies, you can always say, well, it is a human, it has some names, and in the article, it might say if it's a birthday or nationality or something like that. So you can just add some basic stuff. So very simple tool to, like, if you want to care about something specific on Wikipedia and improve that on Wikidata.
And in the same episode, I think we showed sdc.js. It's not in the topics, but I believe that's what the description means.
Yes, yes. Do you want to say what that is?
Um, it's a script for mass editing structured data on commons from category views. So you can just go onto commons, select a bunch of images in the category view, and then say add this statement to all of them. And for example, they are great if we have a category of people and we know that that person often appears with another person, then we can look at the thumbnails. It's in that picture, it's in that picture, it's in that picture, and so on. And then at the end, say they all depict this person.
Yes. And I think I'll have it activated. So if I go into a category here, for example, we're going to see it in the bottom right corner if it loads.
Yeah, it should
Uh,
be.
there's so many things. I have too many things, and my computer is a little bit slow right now, so it might not show up. But it will be a little
All
yellow
of the
button.
great user scripts.
Yes. In the bottom here, we'll say SDC, and that's where you're going to press it and start using it. Mm, looking here, we have some quick statements workflows. Do you want to say anything about iNaturalist? It's not really a tool here. It's rather like,
Yeah, it's more like a project in the bigger open data fair, like OpenStreetMaps in the similar way in like the Wikimedia projects, but not the Wikimedia project. Um, and yeah, I think I'm the big one who uses this of us too. And we have actually shown quite a bit of small user scripts around it as well. I remember I made one that made so that you could see like observation of animals and things if there was a place. If you're on an item that's also placed on iNaturalist, that you can see the observations done there. And yeah, just one of those projects that really integrates well with Wikidata and the broader
mhm,
Wikimedia ecosystem like Commons. Um,
yes.
yeah.
I think we've shown a tool as well that helps import images on commons based on the category with this same name as a thing on iNaturalist.
Yeah. And after that, John, we got actually another one of our favorites according to this list, and that's Cartographer.
Yes. So both you and I love maps, and Cartographer is one of the way that we can use Wikidata and other things to show maps on Wikipedia. And I think that's why we are returning it, because the great thing with that is that the base data is not uh, on one of our 800 or something wikis, but it's like it's on Wikidata, so anyone can reuse the query. Of course, we could be more efficient in actually sharing this as well, but it's a good start. So so what it actually cartographer is I think all wikis have it now, and it makes it possible to embed a dynamic map based on OpenStreetMap in the wikis. So you can pan and zoom and add things on it based on
Yeah,
queries, things on commons, or just manually editing in the Wikidata syntax even.
indeed. And what I really like about Cartographer is because we have this idea of the sum of all knowledge, Cartographer actually adds a different perspective to that by adding context in a way that you can discover yourself. So usually a Wikipedia article is great with uh, curated information, but when you open a cartographer map, you get this interactive map that allows you to explore the context around it from a geographic perspective that no type of curation or text could ever accomplish. And that's why it's such a great tool and maybe one of the most underused features on wikis, in my opinion.
Hmm. Yes. And it's still a little bit of a barrier to do this. So that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons that it is underused. But we should really encourage everyone who wants to use it to use it more, because if we see it in the wild, people will be inspired and copy and tinker with it, and that's how we spread things.
indeed.
Uh,
And
then I think,
that
yeah.
that episode was also one we did another favorite, the query in a query, when we used SparkQL to generate an auto query, which you could run from the result view. And such a good example. I know we have been getting back to every now and then because we enjoy the workflow.
Yes, which is sort of like creating your own tool on the fly.
Yeah,
So I think that fits into this. Like whenever you see a tool, don't just take it at face value. Uh, think about, how can I make this tool work for you?
yeah,
Sometimes you can figure out like a few hacks. Sometimes, if you want something, you can just reach out, because most of these tools are just made by volunteers. So you can just like, I have an idea. What do you think about this? And if it's a good idea, it might be implemented. Sometimes it might be very hard, but sometimes it might be, oh, I didn't think that we could do it like that. And even the tool creator becomes really happy that someone, first of all, is using the tool and then also contributes back with ideas.
yeah. No, indeed, and it also showcases how with the QS the UI is just so versatile and so important for all of the things we do. But the next tool, I imagine it's Overpass Turbo,
Hmm.
and let's see if I can't bring it up on my screen here. It's, I think I most easily would describe this as the VDQS UI of OpenStreetMap. It's not SparkQL, but it still allows us to run queries against OpenStreetMap data. So in case I zoom in here a little bit and say, I want things with Wikidata tags, which I believe this is. And then I can run this, we can actually see that a lot of things. Okay, so this is either name or Wikidata. So if I would, I assume remove name here. I'm just guessing here, I might be completely wrong. but I assume we might just get things with Wikidata. It would be interesting to see it. No, no, it seems like we got everything.
Ah,
I probably did an error there because I don't think all of this got something in Wikidata. But a lot of what you see here actually do have Wikidata items, and you can use this amazing UI to query not only for what got a connection to Wikidata, but just about everything. And it's incredibly useful, and you can export it and use it in another tool like Kepler.gl or somewhere else. And we have also used this to create various workflows.
yes. And then I think the next one is possibly Tabernacle. And Tabernacle is uh, also one of Magnus Manske's tools where you can do. I think the way I most often use it is that I set up a few things that I want to edit, and you can do it with a Wikidata query, and then you define a number of properties, which sort of gives you the tabular style thing where you can see a lot of different things, but just a few properties. And then you can make sure, like, I want to edit all of these on all these items, like this subset of data. I want to edit and make it complete in this subset of properties because that's what I'm working on right now. For example, adding all the social media for the Swedish municipalities. That's something I think we've done that on stream,
Yeah,
or uh, just typing along where you got something, and it gives you a comprehensive editing interface. Uh,
yeah, it's
Sometimes a
like
little bit, yeah.
a little bit like Cradle, but with multiple existing items at the same time.
Yes, yes, that's a
Um,
good analogy.
yeah, in case people know Cradle.
Yeah, well, we did
Yeah,
start out there.
indeed. Then we also got Page Pile, another Magnus tool.
Yes, and I think that's where the PSID come in. That might be the page pile ID,
Yeah,
uh, which is basically a way you define a data set and then you want to work more on it, and you can do that in various ways in his tools. And I think even other people have sort of
yeah,
adapted the format for it.
indeed, I believe the same. We also had a tool there called Projector.
I have to be honest, I don't remember that one.
Uh, I don't remember that one either. I remember that it was new to me when you showed it, and I think
Oh,
it's yet another Manske tool. So we got a mystery
we have a
one
mystery
there.
there, yes.
Yeah, I think that means that it's time to show it once again.
I guess it is.
Yeah,
Uh, then we have the Lexeme entity suggester, which is a user script which is super handy when you're editing Lexemes a lot, because uh, if you have editing on Wikidata, you know that when you start adding a property, you get a suggestion based on other things. This user script narrows it down so that it actually selects more relevant properties for your language. So you can even say, I want this dictionary ID to be hand ready because I often use it when I work in this language, or something like that. And it has some generic things that are good for all. And it also, I think when you're adding the value, it helps you search better than the regular search does.
yeah. And then we got Outer Disambiguator.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that takes the name strings we got in Wikidata when we used to have the name of a person but not an item, and it's just an incredibly powerful tool to match those strings to actual persons, and it's incredibly useful. And in that same topic, We also got Schoolia,
Yes.
and
And,
yeah,
and Schoolia is there are some tools hidden in it, but it's also sort of like a separate viewer for Wikidata for aspects or topics that are uh, could be expressed in various ways. And the common one is scientists or people who write scientific articles, and then you can see what other articles have they written and what's their production and where have they been published and who are they citing and who has been citing them. So it collects a different, like a larger set of Wikidata queries on one page. They're sort of like expanding the view of this. So it's like a really good thing for learning more about something
yeah,
uh, based on what is in Wikidata.
yeah. It's more a practical view of Wikidata for people in a particular subject. Um, then we got this Sparkle extension we got in VDQS, which I think is worth mentioning. Let's see. MV API, which allows us to take VDQS and talk to the Wikimedia APIs. This is something we do quite often, for example, to get page views, but also to make really fast searches where VDQS would time out. We have used it to work with categories and quite a bit with Wikimedia Commons. And we just tend to come up with all kinds of use cases for this one.
Yes. Here you really go into like what where does your imagination end? Because this gives you a totally different access to things in, like if you're thinking like a wiki editor with all things that are available, those tools could also sometimes be used within the query service.
Right. And then I think we briefly should mention Gov Directory as well. This is in the very early days of Gov Directory, I would say. We were still working on the state agencies in Sweden, so to say. And
Yes.
Gov Directory is just like Schoolia. It's a bit more of a viewer rather than an editor and tool. Even true, we have created a lot of workflows around it. And yeah, it has led to a lot of people contributing to that type of data, government agencies and social media. So it has been great. Um, we got a tool later on called the Pictor.
Yes, I'm trying to pull that one up because I think that's
Yeah,
a really good one to show. And it wants me to log in. I'm logging in. I had to authorize it to do something. What does it want to do in my name? Interact with pages in a high volume. Yes, let's do that.
yay.
Yes, and click proceed. And what this does is, as it said there, like add structured data on commons, which we talked about. Uh, and it does this in a game-like interface. So when it's what it says here is uh, someone born in 1919, check if that person is depicted in the given image. So that's sort of one of the default things. But what we also showed here is how you can do this based on queries or categories, set up your own depict campaign, so to speak. Maybe this is really slow for me right now while I'm streaming. Uh, oh no. So here we see to the left Ulysses Ramos, and then the question is this person also in this to the right? And then you say yes, skip, or no. And sometimes it's really easy, and sometimes, like in this one, it's a little bit harder. So I'm gonna skip the first one and see if we. Oh, and this is the same. So here I can say yes, and then it does an edit on Wikidata and moves on to another. And you can see here in this workflow, there's 146 tasks and 419 have been done. So yes, the picture is like one of these fun editing things.
Right.
What? Yeah. What do we have
And
next?
then we had episodes about our favorite tools and gadgets and uses with. So there were used a bunch of them. They aren't mentioned here. One that is mentioned is auto identifier input, which is this. Let me quickly get to Wikidata, which is one that I have written. Let's do it on Earth and wait for it to load. So it looks like this. It's essentially this small bar here, and it allows you to put in an entire URL. And based on the URL, it figures out what properties is it the facebook.com URL. It understands that this is the Facebook property, and then it extracts the identifiers and add that automatically. So rather than selecting the property and then the identifier, you can just paste in the URL and click add, and it will try its best at figuring things out. It's primarily for social media because it was built for Go directory, but people every now and then write to my talk page, say, can you add this property to it? And then I add that as well. So that's an episode that's probably a little bit similar to this one.
Hmm.
53, halfway. And
Yes. So
that one I highly
seems
recommend.
appropriate. Yeah. Yeah. And then we have pause, and I think we have come back to that a couple of times as well, uh, because that's also like one of these generic platform tools where you can do a lot of different stuff. And let me see, I think I had it preloaded in the second tab here. So you come here, you have to sign in when you go to that URL, but anyone with a MediaWiki account has access to this. So you will, oh, I didn't see I was logged in, even though I was logged in. Odd. Then you have to OAuth it and say you allow it to interact in a high volume, which is sort of like, yes, that's why I want it. And even other things, you can interact with media because you can edit on commons as well with some of the tools. But in these tools, there are like, it's more like a platform than a tool in itself. So you have access to like a terminal, so you can run PyWikibot, and you have access to OpenRefine, which I think we will come back to, and but you also have access to, yeah, all kinds of stuff. And one of the good things is you can also do these Jupyter notebooks, which you can share with other people, where you can set up like very advanced workflows. And here is we're going to see the latest on one that I'm found someone else was doing and copied and adjusted it for Sweden, so I can see the top read articles for 2022. So I have it ready. I can run it on New Year's Day and get the most read article for the Swedish, no, for Sweden, not even Swedish Wikipedia, for Sweden, which is the cool thing because we also have that API.
Yeah.
And all the news agencies want to know this. So anyone look this up, copy the thing for your country as well, especially if you're in a chapter and want to do some PR work early in January.
Then
Oh, and
items.
I
Yeah,
can,
go
yes, I can mention that. That is one of the tools that I was running in Pause, which helps you with a query. Say, I want to add something with this main item, and then you can search for it, and it will ask you, does these fit? And you can sort of do some semi-automated editing.
Right. And directly under it, we have two episodes in a row with OpenRefine.
Yes, and maybe I even can show it in
Yeah.
here because I'm already in here. You have this when you're in your launcher. the launcher is hidden under the blue plus nowadays, but you can just, without even installing anything locally, run Open Refine. So it's a very quick starting point, which is nice. What Open Refine does is like it's also sort of like the Swiss Army knife. A lot of these tools are really flexible, but its main purpose is to clean messy data and match it with some other less messy data,
Yeah.
perhaps, hopefully, and then it can also do uploads of this reconciliated, which we call it when we have like matched it data to commons. You can define schemas like edit this, but or to Wikidata, but also to structured data on commons. And from the 3.7, you can also upload images. It's not officially released yet, but I think the beta is out any day. But there are
Yeah.
snapshots you can
I
use.
I think even the pre-releases have started of the
Yes,
betas.
yes. And here you see how you do it. So you can create your projects, open other ones, and it takes a lot of different inputs, which is it's really forgiving and tries to do the best with whatever you throw at it.
Yeah, indeed. I use Uberfine very rarely actually for Wikimedia work, but for Orchard just data cleaning work, I use it almost every single day. And yeah, it's a go-to tool for me for a lot of
Yes.
things.
Yeah. Uh, what do we have left here? We have the, the wizard. I think we came out that how it was pronounced, which is a browser add-on for Firefox, if I remember correctly, which sort of can let you, when you're browsing Wikipedia articles, see could
Yeah,
this be a statement on Wikidata, and let you make that edit.
yeah. And this is one of those tools that I remember you showing, and I was like, I must try that. And then I added it to a list, and I haven't gotten to it yet. But I really feel
Ah,
like, again, I must try that.
yes.
Then we also got the query builder tool here,
Mm-hmm.
which is the simplified VDQS UI essentially for humans rather than for people who write SparkQL who might be alien. Um,
Yes.
and I think we have shown it once, and I think that's about it because yeah, we are among those aliens. But it's a really good introduction to the VDQS, everything you can do with VDQS, and it's really under promoted as it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're one of those people who feel like Sparkle isn't for you, but you still want to get started somewhere, it's definitely for you. The query builder is very accessible for newcomers or for people who do not want to write Sparkle.
Yes. It's also the gateway drug
Yeah,
to
it's a
become that
gateway
alien.
drug. Okay.
Because it has some limitations, where you've seen someone doing a query and, oh, I cannot get that done with query builder, and it might not actually be able to do that exactly that query in query builder, and then you have to switch to do VDQS. So when you
No,
start like dreaming and imagining of complex queries, then you're ready for the next step.
exactly.
And then I
Then
think here that might be the next tool, the Lexeme challenges tool.
yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, and this is like it's not the Swiss Army knife kind of thing, but it has different kinds of usages. And one of the main usage is to be inspired. Every week there's a new challenge with 7 concepts that you should create lexemes about. So if you don't know like what should I do, you can really just participate in this, and you slowly improve your languages. And one of the main philosophies of the maintainer of this tool is to work on core concepts. So you will really move your language forward by participating in it. But it also has this, you can set up your own campaigns, defining it and use it in your own competitions or something like that, besides the weekly challenge. So you can really go nuts and be inspired by that.
Yeah. And I noticed we're running out of time and we haven't really
Yes,
got
no,
that
we were
close to the
dreading
end.
this. Yeah.
Um, we were kind of expecting this, but a lot of two comes back, and we highlighted some of the most important ones, or that at least are the most important one to us. Is there a last one, Jan, you want to mention?
I think we have like covered the 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 ones that are really important in this, like in that they are very flexible. Then there are a few ones that are does a very narrow task, but does that one really well, and you don't really need to be coming up with your use case yourself because it's already sort of like predefined. So that's the richness of our tool ecosystem. It has a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yeah. For me, maybe one thing that we haven't mentioned enough is all of the small user scripts that aren't necessarily small, but things like move claims, the
Oh,
gadget on Wikidata,
yes.
and there are a couple of orchard just user scripts on Wikidata that we have activated, or I have collapsed or minimal UI for Wikidata, which just makes everything take up much less space. And we have all kinds of things like that that we don't even reflect about usually when we edit or when we talk about tools like this, but that are so important to what we do, or things like that add references easily for us in Wikidata and things like that, C2read for Wikidata. And those tools, I think we did a little bit in that in episode 53 when we did favorite tools and gadgets. We looked a little bit more on that, but those also deserves a lot of space here in what we do and such. They are really helpful. Otherwise, what we do here would be really boring to watch because we would just repeat the same thing over and over again when we move claims or add references and such.
Yes, that's a good point.
Right.
All right. So I think that's episode 100.
Yeah. Let's start planning episode 200.
Yes. So in our current pace, that will be in about a little bit more than 2 years.
Oh,
But long planning horizons is really good.
indeed.
Do you find there a little?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's it for today.
Yeah.
And until next time, as usual, happy editing.
Happy editing.